Welcome back to another episode of the Media Pass. I am your host, Alex, joined as always by your other host, Matt. Matt, it has been months since our last episode. How the heck are you?
I'm phenomenal, man. I am phenomenal because I'm back talking to one of my closest hoops friends on the planet, Alex. It's been crazy. We're back. This time, I swear, me and Alex are ready to go. We're back week by week. This NBA podcast world needs some heroes, man. No Zach Lowe still. Thinking basketball is only once a week. It was twice a week for a while until Cody had a child. It needs heroes. I notice it myself. Like listening to podcasts, I'm like, I listen to a little bit of game theory, a little bit of Dunked On, a little bit of Thinking Basketball, a little bit of the Dunker Spot, and then kind of that Thursday, Friday rolls around, and I'm like, I don't have anything else to go to here. Like I'm gonna have to start listening to movie podcasts or develop some other interests. Sometimes I watch. Do you ever watch a YouTube video, not how we post podcasts on YouTube? Like you watch a YouTube video as a podcast. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's hard, especially the basketball ones.
Yeah. And the other thing is when I put on a podcast, I want at least 30 minimum. I want 30 minutes of content. And so when I am using a YouTube video as a podcast and it ends after 12 minutes, I'm just frustrated. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to listen to while I fold my laundry now? I'm completely lost. So
you don't want to be stuck in your thoughts. You don't want to be in your thoughts. That's for sure.
No,
get away from that.
You think I'm going to marinate my feelings?
No,
and be mindful of what I'm doing in the present moment? Of course not.
Never.
What is this, 1953? Get out of here. Get out of here with that nonsense. One thing I will say that's been really funny is, so I've had a lot of people ask me, and guys, I promise we're going to get into the basketball as soon as humanly possible, but it's been so long. We can't just dive right in. Sometimes you got to have the exposition and whatnot, the character development. So we'll fill you guys in. I've had people over the past 4 or 5 months, however long it's been, be like, what happened to the media pass? And nothing malicious happened between Matt and I, but I thought it would be very funny if I just made up some ridiculous story about how there was drama between us and was very vague and was yeah, Matt and I, we don't work. We won't work together anymore. We had a falling out or something like that, just to make people think that something bad happened. I would never do that, but I just thought of how funny the thought of that was. Very funny to me. I was like, I could really go a long way with this and just manufacture.
You should have, man. I don't have as much of an online presence either, so I wouldn't be able to really dispute it, refute. Anytime I try to use the internet, I break it on accident. I mean, you told me that we need to get me media trained. By the way, can I take a quick victory lap?
Of course.
Was I wrong about Ryan Dunn?
No, you were not. He's still a good player though.
No, he is. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I watched him play the Bucks the other day. He had a good game. I like him. I like him a lot. But I wasn't wrong.
The 3-point shooting cooled off quite a bit.
Yeah.
turns out the shot was not as real as my YouTube video made it out to be. But hey, I got 75,000 views off of that. I take my wins where I can get them.
No, you're good, dude. You did what you did. I thought that was a great video. I'm going to have to rewatch it. But what bothered me was the people on Sun's Twitter who hurt our friend. I had actual friendship with these dudes. See them at events. We sit down, talk, have lunch. They took the opportunity to dunk on me on Twitter just for a couple likes.
It's a cold world out there, man.
It's a cold world. Just a couple likes. Let's get into it, though. Let's start talking about basketball.
I was gonna bring something else up. I'm not gonna bring it up.
Okay. Why did I get something wrong? Are we gonna dunk on me right now?
No. Well, okay.
Go ahead. No,
I forget what the tweet was, but you had a tweet that I responded to over the last. I forget. I don't even remember what it was, but I responded without any intent. Oh, it was about the Luka trade.
Oh yeah.
And I responded to a tweet that you made. And I did
Yeah.
not think that it was going to blow up like it did. I didn't even quote you. I just replied to the tweet.
Yeah.
Matt, that's the biggest ratio I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh, dude, it was crazy. You killed me. It was because I was trying to like, and to be fair, this was right before he traded Quentin Grimes. But I'm just like, you know what? Like, listen, he fucked up here. He messed up pretty bad. And some could argue he's looking pretty good right now. Luka hasn't been looking great, but Nico Harrison as a GM, like before those two trades, his resume was indisputable. He was awesome. Like the Derrick Jones Jr. signing, traded for PJ Washington, trading for Daniel Gafford, adding Grimes, adding Najee Marshall, adding Klay Thompson. They built a perfect team around getting Kyrie when his value was very low, and a pretty good deal. Like he was making some good moves. So I was like, you know what? Let's hold our horse just a little bit. And then he traded Quentin Grimes. I'm like, I can't get behind this.
That was the last straw.
Yeah, that was the last straw for me. But yeah,
all right,
you ratioed me pretty bad.
Let's get into the topic at hand. We've done our victory laps. We'll have to do a victory lap segment at the start of every episode from now on. Should we read the question? Let's not read the questions.
No. But hey, ask them. We are back. We're so back.
Never been backer.
Let's go.
So today we have a very special segment, or I guess theme of the episode. And it's we'll call it March Madness themed, but there really haven't been a ton of major upsets this year in March Madness. It's been pretty boilerplate. There's been some good stories, but overall it hasn't been like, we're not seeing like 16 seeds upset 1 seeds or anything like that. But in the vein of upsets and Cinderella stories, we're going to be talking about teams that will probably make the playoffs as bottom 4 seeds that we think have a genuine chance of upsetting a top 4 seed. Matt, I would like you to go first because I think your picks are more interesting than my picks. Mine are they're the trendy ones right now, but yours, I think you're kind of going against the grain a little bit, and I cannot wait to hear your justifications.
Pretty base. Just because I was just watching them play the Grizzlies, I want to get started with a team that I'm just really, really excited about. I've been kind of just holding on to them. They're my precious little child. I can't quit those Los Angeles Clippers, man. I cannot quit the Los Angeles Clippers. Like I know they do this. They do this like it's the big caveat. Like if Kawhi Leonard could stay healthy for the postseason, if James Harden can, not stop hitting step backs and floaters in the postseason, if Norman Powell can stay healthy, even though he's just this beautiful thing that transcends basketball. But no, dude, how about I tell you last 10 games? Let's go last 10 games really quickly. I hope I have the doc still folded up. Yep. Okay, last 10 games. Los Angeles Clippers, 4th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating, 2nd in net rating. Now, there is some opponent shooting luck. By the way, they're 8-2 in that span. How about Kawhi Leonard in the last 6 games? Kawhi Leonard in the last 6 games, 25.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 2.5 steals, 67% true shooting. It's pretty good numbers, I would say. One thing that but when we used to be a podcast and we used to talk about basketball, one thing I always like to cite is, so I did a study last year looking at the last 20 teams to win the NBA title, and it applied to the Boston Celtics last year too. So the last 21 teams to win the NBA title. And basically every team has, during the regular season, at least one lineup featuring most, if not all, their best players that has played at least 300 non-garbage time possessions together and has at least a +9 net rating per 100. The Clippers lineup that fits this criteria would be Harden, Powell, Leonard, Derrick Jones Jr., and Zubac. They're a +24, which is the second best 5-man lineup of any lineup in the NBA that's played at least 300 possessions. The other one's the Memphis Grizzlies starting 5, I believe. So what I'm getting at here, this team, after the trade deadline, getting Bogey, getting Simmons, and now they're getting healthy with Kawhi, they're everything you want in a playoff team, right? They're deep. They've got, I was thinking about this the other day. Would the Milwaukee Bucks, and this is completely left field, or the New York Knicks, right? Milwaukee Bucks, New York Knicks, would they not kill to have Amir Coffey on their basketball team?
I think, yeah, specifically those two teams for sure. But I think probably 28, 29 other teams would. I think everyone would love to have an Amir Coffey.
Mm-hmm. He plays like 10 minutes a game for the Clippers. He's like the 10th guy. He's like their 10th, 11th guy.
I have a tweet from, it might have been earlier on in the season, where I said Amir Coffey might be the best like 10-minute per game guy in the NBA. Just like in terms of production per minute or something like the impact per minute. He's great.
If he was on the Milwaukee Bucks, he would start. I would start him over Taurean Prince. He would start on a team that's what the Bucks going on pace to win 50 games, right? Something like that. They're a pretty good team. They're not, right. after the stuff that happened with Damian Lillard, probably not going to make too much of a dent in the playoffs, but pretty good team, right? That's Amir Coffey. He's like your 10th guy. Like, look, their starting lineup is, Dunn, Harden, Powell, Kawhi, Zubac. And then coming off the bench, you have Bogey, who's another creator. That's a fourth creator for them that can score, get hot, can have these big explosive games like he did against the Cavs, going 9 for 9. You have Derek Jones Jr., who's another one of these rangy wings, kind of Amir Coffey type, right? He was integral. He was a starter. He was a starter on the Dallas Mavericks team that went to the NBA Finals. This guy's like a 7th, 8th man now. Nico Batum is still very good. He's like reinvented himself as like this rim protecting, 3-point shooting role player. Amir Coffey, as we said. You have Ben Simmons. Remember Ben Simmons? Former multi-time All-Star Ben Simmons, who not a bad small ball 5 at all. He's got a lot of limitations. The back has zapped him, right? But as your small ball 5, they can play small, by the way. They can play small and have Simmons at the 5. They can play big with Zubac, who is one of the 10 best centers in the NBA, right?
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Harden is still very, very good at basketball. He was an all-star this year.
You know what really frustrates me?
Please.
People are like, Cade Cunningham's favorite for MIP. I think that's a little silly. But then, people talk about who else should be a favorite for MIP. They list off like Ty Jerome. I think that's a good pick. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of guys that have good cases. But the name that I do not hear enough is Zubac. If you look at how much he's improved this year, production-wise, like it's insane. He's like 16 and 12. Zubac is averaging like a Jarrett Allen all-star stat line. Jarrett Allen made an all-star team off that. And Zubac, like I'd never hear him mentioned for MIP. I'm not saying he should win, defense. But he's yeah, exactly. And the defense. It's like so many teams. We talk about players that teams would kill to have. Mm-hmm. So many teams would kill to have Zubac.
He's just so good. Like he's so strong. The other thing about him is like he's not like a traditional like rim running, rim protecting big where he's like Allen, where he can finish that hook with both hands. He's not as good of a passer as Jarrett Allen, but he's getting better as a passer. He's so big, he's so strong. Like you can't like just switch anybody, right? Like he was beasting Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, like beasting them. Like they could not guard him one-on-one. And that's like what, their 4th best player, their 3rd best player, right? Like this team is so deep. And then that lineup data I mentioned that shows that they have the fastball to hang with the heavy hitters, right? So they can play so many different styles. Like I'm thinking about them against OKC, right? OKC, they love to space you out, 5 out, isolation, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like they can throw so many different bodies at him, like with Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., give him a little bit of Kawhi Leonard, give him a little bit of Amir Coffey. Like that's 4 like credible wing defenders right there. If they want to play the Lakers, like, I know they lost those 2 weekend games. I still think they're the better team between the two, but put Zubac in the paint. Like who's going to guard this guy? Like he's very, very hard to guard, right? If you want to play the Rockets, like they can put Zubac and Sengun and he can bang with Sengun. If they want to go small against the Grizzlies, they can. Like they have all for example, the Grizzlies put Jaren Jackson on Chris Dunn, right? Normal strategy to do against non-shooters. And what are they like? Okay, cool. Let's start Bogey in the second half. That's fine. Bogey Bogdanovic, great shooter, electric offensive player. He's like our 7th best player. This team's just, I don't know. I love them. I think they could, there's nobody wants to play this team. Nobody, not even the Thunder.
Well, especially because One, I just think like you've got Ty Lue, who's such a seasoned veteran championship coach. And like, I still think pound for pound, Ty Lue's like probably easily 10 best coaches in the NBA, probably 5 best coaches in the NBA. I'll hear an argument for 3. That can do a lot when you don't have a ton of talent, but when you have as much talent as this Clippers team has, I mean, that moves mountains for you. And the thing that you haven't mentioned yet, that, the standings are so tight in that even that 5 through 8 range, but really the 6 through 8 range, it's super tight. Warriors 41-31, Clippers 40-31, Timberwolves 41-32. It's like razor thin margins for which team's going to end up in those seeds. But right now, if the season were to end this very second, the Rockets would play the Clippers in the first round. And the Rockets have been a great story this year. I like the direction they're heading in.
Yeah.
They do not win that series.
No, they're not ready for those boys.
And it's less because of like, I think this Rockets roster has a lot of limitations. I think Rockets fans will admit that their roster has a lot of limitations, and they've been so successful despite that. And hats off to them. I as a Thunder fan, I shouldn't like the Rockets as much as I do, but I really have enjoyed watching them this year. But like the Clippers, in terms of defending that Rockets half court offense, it's going to be easy. Like you talk about a team that's kind of older where, in an ideal world, they can kind of take some possessions off on the defensive end, or they can live with a little bit of mistakes here and there because they want to be able to save their best punch for the offensive end. If there's a team to do that against, it's the Rockets, because they live off of offensive rebounds and winning the possession battle, and they're very good at it. However, in the playoffs, things are much different. Teams tighten up. They really tighten the screws and start looking for the buttons to press. And the Rockets have a lot of buttons that you can press. They're a team where there's a lot of opportunities for their opponents to get under their skin. And I think the Clippers, especially with the Ty Lue factor here, would be able to find all of those little wrinkles and start cranking up the heat. That being said, where do you think the Clippers finish? Do you think they finish 6, 7, or 8?
I don't know. I don't even know who plays anymore. Like in the regular, like I go turn on a game and it's like I was so excited last night. I'm like, oh, Davis is back. Like I'm gonna watch him play the Knicks because I wanted to see Mitch Robinson a little bit just to catch up on how he's doing. And then of course, Kai Jones is starting. Former Clipper Kai Jones. So it's like I'm like, oh yeah, he's not. Of course he's back now, but he's not gonna, God forbid he play it back to back, right? But so I don't know. I don't like. I'd have to look at their remaining strength of schedules. Well, let me do it. Let me do a quick look, and let me say one other thing. Just to kind of, because remember what the core of this podcast is, right? We're trying to cut behind the lines and like let people kind of understand our process and stuff. When Alex says like you can push those buttons, so like all the low-hanging fruit starts to go away in the playoffs normally, right? Where it's like low-hanging fruit, what are we talking about? Offensive rebounding, fast break, cutting, right? 3 things that it's really effort-based, well-coached teams do. But in the playoffs, like you start to dial in, key in on that more. But those 3 things I just mentioned, isn't that basically the backbone of the Rockets offense?
Right, yeah. That's where there's a lot of their success comes from. Yeah,
so it'll be super simple, not simple, but it's relatively easy for a playoff caliber defense like the Clippers to kind of hone in on that stuff. And then the cool thing for the Clippers is like, since the Rockets have less spacing, weaker half court offensive personnel, they can cheat and put more Bogey Bogdanoviches out there, put more Norm Powells out there, like more offensive centric guys, because they're not as worried about the Rockets offense, and that'll allow them to kind of have an easier time against that tenacious Rockets defense. So let's look here. So actually, funny enough, so the Timberwolves have the 6th easiest schedule remaining, and then the Clippers and Golden State basically have exactly the same degree of difficulty schedule remaining. It's the average win percentage for a Warriors opponent is 51%. Average win percentage for a Clippers opponent is 50.9%. And then for those wondering, Timberwolves average win percentage for their opponents for the rest of the season is 44.6%. Speaking of the Minnesota Timberwolves, is that by chance one of your teams?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, the Timberwolves are one of the teams. And they frustrate me. The Timberwolves are a team that I just find myself frustrated with, because it's like you see the moments where you get it. You get the idea of what this team is trending towards. And even with the Julius Randle of it all, Julius Randle has been pretty good lately. And like they're making it work with Julius Randle, and not just like Band-Aid over a bullet wound. It's like, no, he's a key cog in the machine. He is a genuinely valuable piece of mainly their offensive process, although I can't discount some of the contributions that he's provided on the defensive end. But with the Timberwolves, I think their record is not super indicative of how good of a team they've been this year. I think they've had some bad breaks. They've had some bad injury luck. They've also dealt with, I think, like, you can look at, if you look at October through the end of December, prior to the start of the new year, like, this was a team trying to figure out who they were. Like, the identity issues that the Timberwolves experienced at the beginning of the season cannot be overstated. They did not look like they enjoyed playing with each other. They did not look like they liked each other. They did not look like a team that was on the same page offensively and defensively. And all of it was augmented by the fact that some of their players just simply weren't playing very good. And now, since January 1st, they had the injury to Julius Randle, which I think forced them to take some time to look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, we've got all these young guys, and a lot of them aren't really getting any development. So let's just embrace some youth. Let's throw some guys out there and let's see what they can do. And all of a sudden, turns out you've got a guy like Jalen Clark, who is one of the most, the Timberwolves and Thunder game with Shea, I feel like even when Shea has a lot of composure, and even when he's getting clamped up, like a lot of guys, they get clamped and I say clamped. There's some guys that there's really only so much you can do. You just want to make them frustrated. Like, you want to speed them up. Watching Jalen Clark defend Shea, like, you can tell Shea is annoyed that he's having to work so hard to get his game off. And a lot of it was like, there are times when I can tell just from watching the Thunder so much this year in general, as a Thunder fan, when Shea starts just like starting a possession by passing the ball like to the other side of the floor, and he just kind of goes and stands like on the wing, like, that's when I know he's annoyed. Like, he's not able to get his game off. And I know that drives him nuts. And that happens a lot when Jalen Clark is defending him. And there's few guys that can do that and do it so well, and also do it in a disciplined way. Like, even against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's one of the best foul drawers in the entire league. So I find myself impressed with his maturity on defense and his just overall technique. He's just a very, like, seemingly, he still makes some mistakes, but he's a seemingly very polished defender for his age. And I mean, here's the thing that I keep thinking about with the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards has been good this year. He's been good. He hasn't been great. He's been good. I think he's having a historic 3-point shooting year, but that's going to fly under the radar because his overall efficiency has been, like, fine. You wish it was better, though. I think Timberwolves fans would agree. You wish it was better. You wish he was, a 60 true shooting percentage kind of guy, 62% true shooting percentage kind of guy. It's awesome that this 3-point shooting is like, it's real. 40% on 10 attempts is nuts. Like, let's call a spade a spade. It's extremely impressive, but that only matters so much if he's not leveraging what he's able to do inside the arc to its fullest potential. So what I keep coming back to with the Timberwolves is they've been like an above 500 team this year. And like that's with everything taken into consideration of how kind of wacky this season has been for them. Adjusting with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, who, thank goodness, Dante DiVincenzo finally remembered how to play basketball, because the NBA is better when Dante DiVincenzo is able to do Dante DiVincenzo things. Like, he's such an entertaining player for his archetype because he just plays so, like, just fast and loose. Like, he's a gunslinger,
reckless.
For better or worse. Yeah,
not reckless,
very well.
Fearless.
Not like Giannis reckless, but like sweet. We can maybe talk about that clip later from the Suns game, but different discussion. All of bringing it full circle. The Timberwolves have been an above 500 team in a historically competitive Western Conference, and Anthony Edwards is having a, by his standards, mediocre season. The three-point shooting is amazing. I'm not taking anything away from that. But he has not been what we know Anthony Edwards can be. The passing has improved a ton. I think that's one of the areas of growth that I find much more excitement in, more so than the three-point shooting. Like, the three-point shooting, to me, it was like Anthony Edwards was always going to end up being, maybe I didn't think it was going to be this extent of a three-point shooter, but I knew the three-point shot creation was always something. Even when he was a rookie, you go back and look at the amount of space he was able to generate with his moves. And it's like, yeah, we the signs were there. The passing was always the thing. Like, how well is he eventually going to be able to deal with really aggressive coverages? And like he said a lot of the right things about how he's like studied Luka Doncic tape of how Luka deals with aggressive coverages. And I'm like, all right, this is probably real. All of this is to say, when we get to the postseason, do we get that like Michael Jordan version of Anthony Edwards? Because to me, the Timberwolves have put so much together, and now they just need, you need Julius Randle to not lay a big fat egg in the playoffs. That's going to help a lot. But if they get like the Michael Jordan version, and I'm using that tongue in cheek, but if they get that Michael Jordan version of Anthony Edwards, this team has upset potential written all over it, especially if they face a team like the Rockets. But we know that they have the experience of playing the Nuggets, and this Nuggets team is largely the same as last year, albeit there's tons of improvement from their young pieces, and they've just had a lot of internal improvement, and that's still a great team. They're the third seed in the West. But the Timberwolves have shown that they can beat the Nuggets. A big part of that was having Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns had a phenomenal series against the Nuggets, both offensively and defensively, but the blueprint is there. They know how to do it. So there's two teams right there that I'm like, the Timberwolves maybe don't win the series. Well, against the Rockets, I think the Timberwolves have a very good shot, but against the Nuggets, it's more of like, yeah, this could be like a 6-7 game series. But the Timberwolves have also played better on the road this year. And as a bottom 4 seed, having that ability to play on the road effectively, it helps. It helps a lot. It's happened with the Warriors before, where the Warriors are like, they're so much better on the road than they are at home for whatever reason. So I don't know. I just keep coming back to all of these things where I try to convince myself against the Timberwolves, but then I find like a couple more reasons why I can convince myself of the Timberwolves. And I don't know. They're that kind of team where they have nothing to lose. I feel like they're playing with house money this year, because the real Timberwolves team will be next year, a couple years from now, when they've had development and they maybe move off of Julius Randle and they've got a little more cap flexibility. Maybe they trade Rudy Gobert. Who knows? All of that is to say, when you're backed into a corner and you have nothing to lose, I think that's when you really see what a team is made of. And this team has a lot of young, scrappy guys playing for contracts, playing for, Anthony Edwards always has a chip on his shoulder at all times. Chris Finch has been like honestly on the hot seat at times this year. This team, if there's a team that's got like stuff to lose and they're backed into a corner, it's the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you said, you didn't mention that I'm sure you were thinking is just like, I love how deep they are now. Like the cool thing is, so everybody went down, right? It was like Randall, Gobert. I think Dante DiVincenzo was out for a while too. That was like kind of the big three there. And
I didn't even mention Jaden McDaniels too. Which
Jaden McDaniels playing really well. Not so much as a shooter, but like as a driver, being able to do things off the catch and a little bit of self-creation juice, right? And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I feel like is getting better as an offensive player. Naz Reid has been awesome again this year. So they let those three guys go down. So what do? They replace them with three young guys and then some awkward Luka Garza minutes. But got like Rob Dillingham, who's still very, very raw. I don't expect him to contribute to the playoffs this year. But the two guys really caught my eye. Jalen Clark, we talked about him. He's like the Western Conference equivalent of Ryan Rollins to me in a lot of ways. Different styles, but like same player type. You know what I mean? One is more speed based, the other is more strength based. And then the guy who really catches my eye, Terrence Shannon, man. That guy.
Oh yeah,
gets the rim. He gets the rim, and he's very strong. He's fearless. He's an older guy, but I think he's like 82nd percentile rim ring in the entire league as a rookie. That's very, very impressive. I think he could be kind of like a rotational piece for this team moving forward, along with Dillingham, along with Clark. And then they could, Gobert's back now. They could play so many different styles, right? Kind of like we said with the Clippers. Like you can play Naz Reid at the 5. You can play Naz Reid at the 4 and have Gobert out there. You have this luxury where like if Randall's on and he's feeling good, you can ride him. Or if he's not, okay, you could sit him in the fourth quarter and play Naz Reid, who, in my opinion, might be the better player between the two at this point. And they do still have, like, Anthony Edwards, to me, has not been a top 10 player in the league this year. That's just my take.
I agree.
Right? I agree. But he's got that Donovan Mitchell in him where in any given series, he can go toe-to-toe with anybody. You know what I mean? Like, if they played, like, the Thunder, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he went blow for blow with Shea, right? I wouldn't be shocked if he was going punch for punch with Jokic or punch for punch with Luka
or Kevin Durant, like we've seen.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter who.
So he still has that gear. The shooting is very real. I'll eat my words on that. I was kind of critical of the pull-up shooting last postseason. Yeah, I do. I love this team. I think they have – I don't know if their fastball is as potent as the Clippers. Like I think the Clippers still have like just having Kawhi, having Harden, having all that offensive firepower. Whereas the Timberwolves still very reliant on the 3 ball as a team in general. Like if that shot's not falling, they what their offense reminds me of, honestly. Sometimes they're like a light version of the Boston Celtics. Especially when they go 3 to the 5, yeah. They just kind of space you out. A lot of 3-pointers, not a lot of cutting like you see from like the Rockets or the Knicks with Josh Hart. I love the pick though. I love this team. They've been on my radar honestly since the 3 OKC games they played in like 10 days or whatever it was.
Yeah. One last thing I want to say about Terrence Shannon Jr., which I didn't even realize until you mentioned him and I pulled up his stats. Dude, for a rookie, I get he's playing 10 minutes or 11 minutes a game and his volume is pretty low, but like 48, 36, 81 shooting splits as a rookie is solid, dude. Mm-hmm. Especially for his archetype of player. Like that's just solid right there. That screams playoff rotation.
No, dude, they've done so well at nailing these like low end picks. Book's still out on Dillingham. Very, very raw player. Hard to really tell at this age. But like with Jalen Clark, with Terrence Sharp, like those are, and then they still like that guy. I can't even pronounce his last name. What's his name? Minot.
Yeah,
they still like him, right? He's got good size. I've been iffy about how I feel about it. But like the point of the matter, right? They're doing what you need to do when you have a superstar like Anthony Edwards, which is hitting those picks around the margins. Yeah. You wanna before we before we get on to my second team, do you want to? Can I take a moment to talk to you?
Yeah, I was gonna say you got something special for us.
Yeah. So most people when they don't do a podcast for what is it? We're going on 3 months now. I'd say it's the last time we recorded, right? They'd have enough shame.
In a while.
They'd have enough shame to not bore you with an advertisement, some money grab. But me and Alex are back, man. And we're back in full force. And we're trying to get our money's worth out of it, right? So we could use all the support we can. Obviously, subscribe, like. We're over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube still without even recording in the last 3 months. So that's just how much clout we have. But when we make these podcasts, we use a lot of stats, right? And I think, Alex, were you just on Basketball Reference right now? Right?
I was
on Basketball Reference.
I was on Basketball Reference.
Basketball Reference has like a supercharged version of it, right? It's called StatHead, and you can find all sorts of cool stuff. Like, did you know Malik Beasley is one of 2 players in NBA history to shoot at least 9 threes per game and average at least 42% from 3? 2 players. The other guy, Steph Curry. That. Steph Curry. You know how I knew that? StatHead, right? Okay. So if you want to access this glorious database of information, you can do so for 20% off if you use the code MediaPass. That's right, just MediaPass. So it's the name of the podcast without the. MediaPass, get 20% off a year-long subscription, and it does an immense amount for me and Alex on the back end, making this possible, allowing us to continue to make podcasts and do our thing.
Yeah, really appreciate it if you guys go ahead and use that. And maybe you've already had StatHead before. Guess what? Next season rolls around, cancel your old subscription, make a new one, and use code MediaPass. You'll get 20% off. Matt, tell me the next team on your
real
agenda.
Quick. How was that, Alex? You do a lot of ad reads on the channel. How do you think I did right there? Not bad, right? For no script.
That's like a solid 8 out of 10.
Solid 8 out of 10. Okay, I was like that. Okay, good.
Especially it's been so long.
Yeah, dude. I haven't spoken about basketball other than a coaching capacity. And coach speak is like I have a whole new appreciation for the game of basketball. Like I was thinking about it. It really the player. So this is the best example of how much coaching has helped me kind of become a more well-rounded basketball thinker. Like everyone always talks about like Keon Ellis needs to play more minutes, right? And I still think he does. I think he's awesome. I think he impacts winning. I think he's a great player. I think what he does is important to winning. But I was watching a Kings game when Mike Brown was still the head coach. And like there was just some cues I picked up on. There was a couple plays where like him and Sabonis were in pick and roll, and Sabonis kind of like got a little upset with him about something. And then I could see Mike Brown came up to Malik Monk at one point because he thought Malik Monk did something wrong, and Malik Monk was kind of like, nah. You could kind of see him saying like, nah, Keon did this, and that. And I was like, and so then it kind of hit me. I'm like Keon Ellis just does things that piss coaches off. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can just like now like that I've coached, like now that I kind of understand, like a coach, like, I think coaches are much smarter than they've ever been. Right. And they understand like, the impact this guy has on the plus minus and all that stuff. But like, there's some things as like coaches, like you just can't get over like certain mistakes. Right. And Keon Ellis just makes all of those mistakes that just drive coaches insane. So like, it's just an example. I love Keon Ellis, a phenomenal player. Right. I've talked about him plenty on all the publications I write on, but that's just neither here nor there. Second team I have. Did you hear the Golden State Warriors are back?
I've heard that. That's been the word on the street.
Mm-hmm. Last 20 games, pretty good sample size. I think a season is 82 games, so that's about 25% of it. Golden State Warriors with Jimmy Butler, 5th in net rating, 9th in offensive rating, 2nd in defensive rating. So top 10 on both sides of the ball. Really high-level team. And here's the cool part. The Clippers, in their 10-game run, have benefited from some opponent shooting luck, and they've been shooting the nylon off the net, right? Warriors are 12th in three-point percentage since Jimmy Butler got there, which is, that's honestly underperforming what you'd expect, considering they have, the greatest shooter that ever lived, and then that guy Quentin Post, who just shoots really well. And then they have the 8th highest opponent three-point percentage. So not only are they not getting opponent three-point luck, opponents are shooting really well against them from three, maybe abnormally well. Now they don't have, so their best lineup has yet to play 300 possessions, mainly because Pajemski's been hurt, Curry's been hurt. But in 212 non-garbage time possessions, you got Curry, Butler, Pajemski, Moody, Dre. It's a plus 18 per 100. Very, very good, right? So they have, again, and this team is not like the Clippers where I think I'm more bullish on the Clippers right now just because they have more two-way kind of bodies, whereas like the Warriors have like, so, they have Butler, they have Dre, they have Curry, right? And then I really like what I've seen from Moody. I think he's been really good about taking on primary responsibilities at the point of attack, been shooting the ball well, been more aggressive on offense. I've seen games where he's taking like 15, 17 shots in a game. And I'm like, there you go, Moody. I think he's developing really nicely into a 3-and-D player. Pajemski, I think he's back. Would you say he's back? I think he's been playing pretty well.
I'm leaning towards he's back.
Right. He's been playing pretty well now for 20-something games. He's shaken off the rust from the sophomore slump. So that's 5 guys, right? And still that 5-man lineup, I have some problems with. I think they're too small, right? Dre at the 5, Butler and Dre both kind of like 6'6", 6'7". I don't think that's enough size. But all the other guys they could play have some like pretty glaring flaws. Like Kuminga, as much as like, NBA Twitter loves the guy, he doesn't really. Sorry, my dog's somebody. I think some sort of UPS thing, right? But anyways, Kuminga, he not a good passer, not a good spacer, off-ball defensive warts, up the wazoo. Quinn Post, as much as we love the guy, some real glaring limitations on defense, right? Who else am I? Who might I say? Gary Payton II. He's, the offense is the offense at this point. We know what he is. Help me out here. I'm kind of missing some Warriors players. Just name names with me for a second.
I mean, you've gotten most of them, I think.
There's another. So I want to talk about Guy Santos for a second. Oh, so Trace Jackson Davis and Kevon Looney are kind of the same problem, where it's like they just don't do enough on offense, and then on defense, it's like they're both like here's the thing with those two is like you can't play them next to Dre, because they're not like. It's not like Allen and Mobley where both of them are super skilled passers. Both of them could finish with both hands. You know what I mean? They're just not. They don't meet that threshold of skill, and Draymond doesn't really meet that threshold of skill. The only guy that's kind of interesting to me, and this is going to sound funny, is wait 1 second. Bad podcasting. Bad Matt. Then there's Buddy Hield. Forgot about Buddy Hield. He just, his defense is his defense, right?
Right.
But Guy Santos, man, that guy intrigues me because I'm like, I watch him and I'm like, he doesn't do much. He's a really low usage guy, which is always like a kind of a red flag because like being a low usage guy is basically like being a non-shooter where it's like teams are like, okay, let's see what you do with more usage, buddy. But 76th percentile defensive EPM, pretty good. When I watch him on film, it's like he doesn't do anything amazing, but at the same time, he's not getting cooked. And then 38% shooter from 3. And those just like those 2 data points. And this is like a little thing, but like if they could have another guy that they can trust on both sides of the ball, that would make a world of a difference. I still think like this team, unless they play, like if they play the Lakers, I think I would take them. If they play the Rockets, I would take them. If they play the Grizzlies, I would take them. The only team I'm kind of worried about is the Nuggets. Again, that's the size problem, right? I think they run into there. But I'm talking more about like next round kind of issue I have with them. But overall, like I like this team. I like this team a lot.
Yeah, I think this is a team that has the capability to like you look at 5 through 2. The only team that I'm really looking at and saying the Nuggets are the Nuggets. They're going to have Jokic out there for 40 minutes a night in the playoffs, and Jokic is going to be Jokic. And in the past, obviously, the Warriors have been able to handle that team when it's Jokic without Jamal Murray pretty handedly. But this Nuggets team is better than those Nuggets teams historically have been, except for the championship year. That team was nuts. And this Warriors team, while it's really good, I don't know if that's enough to beat a Jokic team with like just competent players out there. It's like, 2 through 5, aside from the Nuggets, I agree. You mentioned them, Rockets, Grizzlies, Lakers. I think the Warriors have a good shot in any of those series. The second round would be interesting in terms of what would that potential matchup be? As a Thunder fan, Steph Curry has done disgusting things to my franchise consistently over the years. And so as a Thunder fan, the Warriors are like towards the top of the list in terms of teams I don't want to see in the postseason. Just because Steph is Steph, I still think he's capable of being the best player on the floor against any team not led by Nikola Jokic. And that scares me. That'll always scare me. And plus you have the Jimmy Butler of it all, where I don't know if Jimmy Butler can still do the I'm going to will a team to the finals thing, especially in the Western Conference against much more competent competition. Not saying like the Celtics teams that they faced were incompetent, but they did tend to shoot themselves in the foot quite frequently, and also experienced otherworldly bad shooting luck, both on their own team and on the opposing team. So different discussion, but Jimmy Butler, we know that he is a playoff riser, generally speaking, whether that's actually tangible in the box score or more of just like a intangible kind of thing where like you look at the finals run in whenever that was, whenever they played the Nuggets, 2022, I think it was 2023.
Yeah.
You look at that finals run, you look at his numbers and they weren't like spectacular, but he was still kind of labeled as the catalyst for that finals run, which he was. So those two factors, the Steph Curry and the Jimmy Butler, it's like, that's pretty scary for just about any team, even against the Nuggets. I'm sure the Nuggets are like, yeah, we'd prefer probably not to play that. That would kind of stink. But do you have anything else on the Warriors, or do you want me to get into my next team?
Do you have thoughts on Guy Santos or Guy Santos? I don't even know how to say his name. It just pops for me.
I'm going to say he's a blind spot for me. I can't say when I watch the Warriors that I'm paying too much attention to him.
I'm just curious about him. I'm like, you know what? He's like out of all the guys we mentioned, like it's hardest to like pick out a flaw for him, other than the fact that he's just a dude, you know?
I feel like Charlie, our good friend of the show, Charlie Cummings, has probably a ton to say about him. So
I'm curious what he has to say. But and then Moody, I don't know. Moody just needs a shout out. He's been awesome. He's been awesome this year.
I completely agree. So moving on to the final team of this episode, probably will come as no surprise. The Detroit Pistons, probably one of the most heartwarming stories in the entire NBA this year, if not the most. Went from literally like the worst team in the league over the last couple of years to now being a top 6 seed. Probably now that the Damian Lillard injury happened, there's a puncher's chance that they end up with a top 4 seed. They are 2 games back from the 4 seed. They're only 5 games back from the 3 seed. Damian Lillard is now out indefinitely with deep vein thrombosis. Prayers for him. Hope he recovers without any issues, and they get him back as soon as possible. That being said, I think it's pretty likely that the Pistons will leapfrog the Bucks in the standings, setting up what is potentially going to be a Pacers-Pistons 4-5 matchup. Now, I think this is maybe not an ideal matchup for the Pistons. I would probably like them a bit more, and this maybe sounds crazy because I think on paper a lot of people would say that the Knicks are a better team than the Pacers, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but I think the Knicks have more the Pistons have more matchup advantages against the Knicks than they do against the Pacers, because the Pistons are a very defensively oriented team. That being said, their offense has been much better this year. I think they've been a top 10 offense since the start of the new year. I'm going to fact check myself on that.
I'll fact check you while you, I got you.
I think that their offense has shown enough to where the Pacers are not a good enough defense to, I think, it's not like the Pistons are a mid offensive team. I think their offense is a little bit one-dimensional, but it's a it's an old reliable kind of offense where it's like, we're going to run some pick and roll with Cade and Jalen Duren. We're going to run a ton of dribble handoffs with Duren and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. And sometimes we'll end up with a Tobias Harris post up we're maybe not thrilled with, but Tobias Harris has been totally fine this year. And then they've got their kind of bench mob that can go out there and just go ham. I think the Pistons offense is solid enough to where the Pacers would have a hard time slowing them down. I think the question becomes, do the Pistons have enough juice to keep up with the Pacers offense? And can their defense slow down the Pacers offense enough? And it's unfortunate that a lot of the Pacers-Pistons matchups were prior to the Pistons kind of figuring it out. They were early on in the year. I think there was one in November and one in December where I believe the Pistons lost both. But I think there's been one since then where the Pistons won, and I don't know if they've played their fourth matchup yet. But let's say they run into the Pacers. I would still probably lean the Pacers in that series. But if the Pistons saw the Knicks, I think the Pistons have a real shot. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of said it like this. When you have a guy like Cade Cunningham, who he strikes me as a playoff resilient kind of player, where his game, you can throw a lot of stuff at him, but he's got an answer for a lot of it. Like, I think the years of having horrible spacing around him has honestly been beneficial for equipping him in the playoffs to deal with those aggressive defensive coverages where it's like, yeah, they're getting the ball out of your hands every possession and you have to make the right read. And I think he's fully capable of doing that. And then against a team like the Knicks, where they're going to have Karl Anthony Towns in drop, or if he's at the level, then Cade's going to be able to get by him. Or if they're showing 2 on him, then they're going to have Jalen Duren on the short roll. And now I trust Jalen Duren to make the right read because honestly, he's been a really solid passer this year. And they actually have Malik Beasley, who's been one of the best 3-point shooters in the entire league this year. And they have Tim Hardaway Jr., who I've always said, if your goal is to win a championship, you probably don't want Tim Hardaway Jr. playing playoff minutes for you. But if your goal is to make the playoffs, if your goal is to maybe win a series, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a totally fine player. And they have, the bench depth where this team has good players. They've got Isaiah Stewart, who I think has been, he's been a really good defender this year. Like, I'd argue he's been a great defender this year. Mm-hmm. I would like them a lot more if Jaden Ivey was healthy, because prior to getting hurt, Jaden Ivey looked pretty good. I knew you would take exception to that.
Continue. By the way, the Pistons offense has been 10th since the start of the new year. Please continue.
All right. Pistons offense, 10th, second best defense in the NBA since the start of the new year, allowing only 109.7 points per 100 possessions. They have the 4th best net rating and the 5th most wins since the start of the new year. They are 26-14 since the start of the new year. Now, let's look versus the Eastern Conference since the start of the new year. They have the third most wins against the Eastern Conference with 16. They are 16-7 against the East since the start of the new year. I don't know. I know a lot of those have come against good teams, like the good East teams, not just the bottom feeder East teams. And I know they've won a lot of those matchups against the top East teams because I've watched those games. They are similar to the Timberwolves, where they are playing with house money. I said it in a video recently that I did on the Pistons. They could probably, I don't know if I fully believe this anymore, but they could get swept in the first round and they'd be like, hey, we made the playoffs, man. We were a top 6 seed. Like, we're fine. It sucks we got swept, but we made the playoffs, which was our goal. And we now have data to work with. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of youth, which is not ideal if your youth is like you're firmly in your rotation in very important roles, but their youth is in less important roles, and their veterans are in important roles with like Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Tobias Harris. It's like they have those guys that they can lean on with the experience, that those guys who are going to be top 5, 6, 7 in the rotation. And then their youth just has so much less pressure. And then they've got Cade, who I think is going to prove himself to be a playoff resilient player. Ideally, he is a playoff riser, but we're going to have to wait and see. We haven't seen him yet. If you can defend and if you can shoot, you'll have a chance in any playoff series. The Miami Heat are proof of that. They've proven time and time again, if you can shoot and you can defend, you will always have your foot in the door. Can JB Bickerstaff press the right buttons and take the right things away? And can they get lucky? Because there's some of that at play. There's always going to be, you look at the Pacers Eastern Conference Finals run last year. It's like they got some injury luck, and that helped a lot. And I think the Pacers team was a good team. But the Pistons, I just keep thinking, I'm like, this is setting up to be a team that hits somebody right in the mouth in the first round, and they're like, whoa, we did not think that was going to happen.
The other thing, you mentioned those Heat teams, that this Pistons team, obviously this year, I think it's been over a year now, like over a calendar year since the NBA really started to crack down and kind of take away the whistle from the referees. A lot more physicality being allowed. And honestly, my biggest impression when I watch the Pistons is like, I think they are the team that benefits the most from the NBA allowing, I might have talked about this with you, but allowing
I think so, yeah,
increased physicality, right? Because you look at their defense, like the guys, other than Asar and Stu, who are like, two top like 30 overall NBA defenders, right? They don't have like incredible defensive personnel, but they're just like big and strong. Like Cade, Beasley's a strong dude. Simone Fontecchio, we haven't talked about yet. Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway. Like I was watching Fontecchio defend a drive against the Pelicans the other day, and like he's not that laterally quick, but what he does is he's so big and he's so strong, and he like pushes you with his hands, and he sneaks in this little physicality to keep you in front of him. And they all kind of do it. Tobias does it, Beasley does it, and this team, like JB's talked about it, they don't help out a ton in the paint, right? They don't what's the word I'm looking for? They don't sell out, right, to protect the paint like the Kings do or the Thunder. They are much more like point of attack defensive oriented, right? They want to keep the ball in front of them. They want to keep the action flat. They don't want to bring too many extra bodies. And this helps them, their physicality, being strong, being able to push guys off their spots. Like I think it translates really well to a postseason. And they're just like a big team. Like they don't play like little guys, like other than Schroeder, who they kind of need, or Marcus Sasser will play sometimes one or the other. But other than that, like they don't play, especially since Ivy's been hurt, right? It's like Cade is huge and he's your point guard. Asar is huge. Stu, big, beefy, strong guy. Durant. Simone Fontecchio is like all of 6'10". And he's like a 10, 15. He's another guy. Dude, if the Bucks had him, they'd be pretty solid. Like obviously if Dame was healthy. If Dame was healthy and they had Simone Fontecchio instead of Taurean Prince, we're having some conversations about the Bucks. Just saying. Just saying. If they had imagine they had Fontecchio and Amir Coffey instead of Gary Trent and Taurean Prince.
Taurean Prince has been shooting the skin off.
Oh,
the
yeah.
ball. So I'll give him some credit there.
I did not like. I've watched Taurean Prince for years now, never super intently, but lately I've like just been like, man, this guy's a shooter. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's always like, it's not even just like the 3-point shooting, but those like drives where he kind of finds himself in that no man's land area in the paint, and he's like, I'm just gonna put up a mid-range jumper here, and he makes it. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. He's a dude. I remember have you ever seen that clip of him talking about what a rebound is?
Mm-hmm. It's
awesome.
A classic. It's a classic.
Awesome. But you have anything else to say on the Pistons?
I got nothing, man.
Okay, so can I do an extra question? Just to ask,
sure.
It could be a 1-word answer. It could be a 10-word answer. It could be we could do a whole podcast on it if you want, just because I love talking to you. One play-in bound team, other than the Clippers, Timberwolves. So It could be one of the 7 through 10 in the East, or it could be the 9 or 10 in the West. Has the best chance of winning a first round series to you right now.
And I can't use any of the teams that we've mentioned already?
Yeah. No, none of those teams.
My answer might shock you. But they're the only team that I really believe in. Well, not believe in, but could see it happen because they've kind of done it before. The Atlanta Hawks?
The Hawks.
Is that crazy?
Huh?
I've been watching a lot of Hawks basketball lately.
I know you've been on that Ricochet train, and I'm happy you're there with me. Not that I own the train, but I'm on it too. I'm glad that we're both on it, right? It's good to do things with your friends. So they're gearing up to be okay. So they could be the 7th seed. Oh, dude, you think they could beat the Cavs or Celtics?
No, I do not. I think they would have to. Absolutely not. They would have to, I guess, get the 6th seed, which is probably okay. The Damian Lillard injury actually doesn't make it that impossible.
I guess you're right. Yeah, if they lose out,
I see they could beat the Knicks. I'm not saying I wouldn't put money on them. I'm saying they could. Theoretically, they could beat the Knicks. It would probably be like an insane upset that everyone is like, oh my gosh, like how on earth did this happen? Like Trae Young, New York MSG, Trae Young is back. Like it'd be insane. It would be mind blowing. People would be running through the streets, losing their minds. We'd get some insane side talk NYC videos out of it. I'm not saying it's likely, but I'm saying it could happen if that were to be a matchup that happened.
I'm going to go with the Orlando Magic. I just think that they've missed so many shots this year. They're bound to hit some, right? And if that happens, like in a series, and they're just
famous
like, hey,
last words,
right? They've just missed so many shots. And then their defense, like they can just ugly up games, like keep it close. You never know what's going to happen. I guess I'd take them. And they have, probably out of all these teams, they have the 2 best players in Franz and Paolo. Like Trae's probably better than them, but they don't have like the best. Like they have the best duo. If the Hawks still had Jalen Johnson,
that's the thing, man.
Story. They would be a top 6 seed right now. They wouldn't even need to talk about the play-in, but that's
for sure
another thing. Ask questions, guys. Start asking questions again. We're ready.
We're back. We're so back.
This felt so good. Did it not?
This was very cathartic for me. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm podcasting again with Matt. I can't believe it. This is the best. Guys, we're back. Please hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Chances are if you're watching this, you're already subscribed and you're like, oh my gosh, they're finally back. Or you're mad at us because we took so long to finally put an episode out again. Regardless, we're back and we can't wait to get back in the swing of things and keep pumping out content for you guys. So be sure to subscribe if you're new. Leave a like on this episode. Let us know your questions, comments in the comment section below, whether you're on Spotify, whether you're on YouTube, whatever your preferred platform of choice is. Make sure you follow, leave a 5-star rating, et cetera, et cetera. Check us out on Twitter at AlexHoops _ at Mat Issa 15 MATISSA 15.